Greetings, friends. Good to see you again. Hope everybody's doing all right out there. I'm Jimmy, and it's been requested that we post a couple of songs to get you into the weekend. So here we go. Sometimes when I'm looking at bringing a song into my song list, it really helps me, and I'm always very eager to kind of check out the backstory. If I can find out how and why a song was written, a lot of times it allows me to just kind of get into it a little more and invest a little more emotion into the song. And occasionally, while I'm performing, as you know, I'll share some of these interesting stories, tidbits about the construction and composition of a song by way of an introduction. So, got a couple of stories for a couple of songs here as we go along. I've always been a huge fan of a certain 60s era pop group from the seaport of Liverpool, England. I think we all know who those four guys are, but they gave us about 6 or 7 years of, they were the undisputed kings of popular music and probably the greatest showbiz act of all time. And I've always been a big fan. The prolific output of this group is remarkable. At least 4 or 5 singles a year, a couple of albums at least, usually one around the summertime, and then a second album annually around the Christmas holiday season. And just amazingly creative and ever improving and ever exploring boundaries of pop music as they went along. 100 years from now, people who aren't even born yet will still be big fans of the songbook of this group. The first song I'd like to play for you was the band had just returned from their second triumphant American tour in the summer of 1965 and had gone into the studio in London to begin preparing their second album of that year for the Christmas holiday season. The fellow who wrote and sang this song in the band had a genius gift for melodic invention and also a very keen eye and a very sharp wit for social commentary. Now stay with me because there's a reason I'm mentioning all this. In the 60s, around the time, the mid-60s that this song was being recorded, there was a interior design movement that had been popular for quite a while that became known as the Eames era, E-A-M-E-S, named after Charles and Ray Bernice Eames, a couple out in Los Angeles, California, that created a strikingly original interior design for furniture and accessories. You may remember some of them being, the big starburst wall clock with the spindles coming out and very modernistic looking chairs and things like that. The hallmarks of what they used to create these items were burnished brass, silver, glass, and particularly finely finished molded wood, often woods that were indigenous to Scandinavia, teak and things like that. So it's considered very trendy at that time to have these elements in your home or apartment. And in fact, they're making a big comeback now as what's sometimes referred to as mid-century modern. So this song, that's kind of the story behind it. Let's start again. I once had a girl, or should I say, she once had me. She showed me her room, isn't it good, Norwegian wood. She asked me to stay and she told me to sit anywhere. So I looked around and I noticed there wasn't a chair. I sat on a rug, biding my time, drinking her wine. We talked until 2, and then she said, it's time for bed. about the songwriter of that particular song, that song was written in three-quarter time, waltz time. And a lot of his songs were in waltz time. Oh, dear, what can I do? Baby's in life, I'm feeling totally. Oh, what can I do? Very interesting and unusual time signature for a pop song. Uh, Hard time finding one today written in that time signature, but once again, really creative. It doesn't really have the beats per minute that 21st century dance music requires. Okay, so that was the fall of 1965. Fast forward now 3 years. Same band. They're in the studio in the fall of 1968 preparing their album for the holiday season that year. An amazing, extraordinary album. Double LP, plain white cover. Uh, the name of the group embossed down in the lower right hand corner. Each album jacket was numbered sequentially, just like a fine art print would be. And you can imagine who had 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, so probably priceless today. But they were in the studio working on that white album. And the band, the members of the group were not getting along very well at all at this period. There was a real tense atmosphere in the studio, but they were given free rein because everything they did was worth millions. And so a lot of times the sessions would usually run at EMI's Abbey Road Studios, would usually run from, the early evening all night long until the next morning. And they would sometimes come into the studio with not really a clear idea of the music that they were going to be working on for that session, but they'd get around and brainstorm, and eventually they would come in and start work on a piece of music. So the songwriter of this song was the other half of that famous songwriting partnership for that group. And he was the only one in the band that lived just a few short blocks from EMI Studios at Abbey Road in the St. John's Wood section of London. Had a little urban detached home there, not a huge sprawling estate. The other three members had big estates out in the suburbs outside of London. But he lived close by. And so he came in and the members of the group were in the studio. And he came in and he said, listen, I've got this song and I think it would be good for this album. Let me play it for you. So he played it, and there was a very caustic atmosphere in the studio, like I said at that time. The members of the group were not getting along at all. And when he played the song, the other three members said, oh, come on, man, there's nothing that we can do on this song. You've already had a couple of songs on albums before that were just you and the guitar. And, this is just unfair. You're just showboating, and, you're trying to steal the limelight and push the rest of the band over to the sidelines again. And no, this song is, we don't see this song going on the record. So the discussion continued and eventually spiraled downward into a very heated argument. And at that point, the songwriter picked up the guitar, ran outside, got in his Aston Martin, and sped a few blocks back to his place. Now, celebrity security at that point in time wasn't quite what it is today. There was about an 8-foot brick wall around his lot there in central London, with the automatic gate that would open when he came up to it. But there were always a clutch of people, fans, mostly young girls, that were 24/7 gathered around the gate of his London estate, always hoping to catch a glimpse or a wave or maybe an autograph or a photograph, that kind of thing, of him as he was coming and going. He knew a lot of them by sight, a few of them by name. They were all there all the time. So he came back in, storming out of this recording session after his song had been rejected, and he came back in, and there was a group of fans that were gathered around the gate to his home. So he went inside, fumed around for a few minutes, and picked up the guitar and went upstairs to the second-story window and threw the window open. Now, at this point, he was about 100 feet away and could clearly see and be seen by these fans in the sidewalk. And he said, hey, he said, yeah. He says, tell me what you think of this song. And he played through the song, and there was an outburst of applause. And, oh, that's a great song. Is that going to be on the new album? That's just a fantastic song. We love it, love it, love it. So at that point, by the time they said that, he was back down in his car, speeding back to the studio, and he walked in. The other members were still sitting there moping around. And he said, okay, I've just checked with the audience, and they love this song, so it's going on the record. You guys can take off. I'll do it so myself. And so he sat there that night and recorded this song. And it went on the album. So here's the thing that fascinates me. We don't know the identity of those fans that were down on the sidewalk. But when you think about it, we have those kids to thank. And they're probably 70, 75 years old today. We have those kids, those fans to really thank for the fact that this song went on that album at that time. So if you're out there somewhere hearing this, thank you. Here we go. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly, blackbird fly into the light of the dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. For all your life you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Thank you, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon.